Hi everyone, this is 4.2. We're going to be comparing and ordering numbers. So how do we compare numbers? So let's go ahead and look at this. So we compare numbers by first we have to make them look similar. So if they're in decimals and fractions, we got to get them in the same format, right? So just like if we had all apples or oranges, right? So you can't compare apples and oranges except for they're all fruit, but we got to get them into the same type of format, right? So just like comparing fruit, we need to make sure that they're all the same thing that we're comparing. So fractions, we need to have the same common denominator, okay? You also need to have the same, like if it's decimals and fractions, you need to be either in all decimals or you need to be all in fractions or percents or something like that, okay? So looking at this, which is bigger, 2/5 or 4/5? Well, they are similar because they have common denominators. We can compare them. Well, so is 2/5 or 4/5 bigger? Well, 4/5 is bigger. And remember, to show this, we would say 2/5 is less than 4/5. All right, so let's go on to the next one. So for example 1, we're going to compare -4/12 and -10/24 using the greater than, less than, or equal sign. Now, we first need to make sure that we have the same thing that we're comparing. Do they have the same denominator? No, they don't. So the first thing that we need to do is to find a common denominator. So you learned this last year, but I see that there is a 24 here and a 12 here. So is there anything I can multiply my smaller number by to get to 24? There is, which is times 2. So if I multiply the bottom by 2, I'd have to multiply the top by 2. So then that's my first step, is to find the common denominator, which was 24. Okay, so I'm trying to get 24 as the denominator. Now I'm going to rewrite each fraction. So I have 24 on the bottom and I have -8 on the top. And I'm comparing that to -10/24. Okay, now that I rewrote each fraction, now I want to write them on the number line just to make sure that I know which one is bigger. So I'm going to create a number line. Now they're both negative. So the most negative is to the left and the most positive is to the right. And we're trying to find which is greater, less than, or equal to. We're going to see which one goes in here. Okay, since they're negative, I'm going to put 0 here. And they're between -1. So I'm going to put the -1 here. Now, as we're going here, we're talking 24ths here, right? So think about your number line. This has more -10s, right? Or -10/24. This is -8/24, okay? So if I had, this was divided into -24, right? So I divided it into 12ths. So if I divided each one of those 12ths in half, right, this would be 24ths. So where would my -1/24 be? It'd be right here. So this would be -1/24. But I need to figure out where -8/24 is and -10. So which one's going to come first? It'll be the -8/24. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 8. So this would be -8/24. And this one right here would be -10/24. So which one is greater, or which one's more positive? That would be the one that is closest to 0 in this case, right? Or the furthest one to the right. So my -8/24 is the greater. So I need to show greater than, which it goes this way. So that means go back to the original and compare -4/12 is greater than -10/24. All right, we're going to be also ordering and comparing decimals, fractions, and percents. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that you get both numbers in the same format, either decimals, fractions, even percents, but I prefer decimals most often if I'm comparing lots of numbers. So decide which is greater than the other one, and that's how you're able to compare in order. So here's our first example. In Mr. Huang's class, 20% of the students own roller skates. In Mrs. Trevino's class, 5 out of 29 own roller skates. In which class does a greater fraction of students own roller skates? So in this case, it's actually asking for the greater fraction of students. So it's telling us to put in fraction. So I need to first pull out my information here. So I have 20% of students own roller skates. And then I have 5 out of 29 students own their roller skates. So the first step is to convert all numbers to the same format, and in this case, fractions. So I have 20%, and I have 5 out of 29. So I have a percent and a fraction. So I need to get this into, I would say, they're saying fractions. So to 20%, remember 20% means 20 out of 100, okay? So I got a fraction there, and this is fraction. So I am now comparing 5 29ths and 20 100ths. However, do I have the same denominator? I don't. So I need to get the same denominator. And how I do that is I need to multiply something by 29 and maybe 100 to get a common denominator. So I'm looking, and the fastest one that I can think of is to just multiply this one by 29 over 29, and then this one by 100 and 100. I can't think of any faster way to do it, so that's what I'm coming up with. So I get 2,900, and then I'm going to have to use a calculator for that one. I'm not sure. And then I have 2,900 over here. And then times 5 times 100 is 500. And let's go ahead and get a calculator. So when I multiply 20 times 29, I get 580. So now I can compare. I have the same denominator. So is 580 out of 2,900 greater, or 500 out of 2,900 greater? Well, the 580 is greater, so I would write my greater than sign. So in Mrs. Trevino's class, that was 5 out of 29. And I need to see which was the greater fraction, so that was actually the 20% class. So that means that Mr. Wong's, I'm not sure how you say that, class had a greater amount of students who owned roller skates. Okay, so that is example 2. Let's go on to the next one. All right, this is our last example. So Nolan is the quarterback of the football team. He completed 67% of his passes in the first game. He completed 0.64, 3/5, and 69% of his passes in the next 3 games. List Nolan's completed passes numbers from least to greatest. So we need to make sure that we are ordering these from least to greatest. Well, the first thing is we have to convert all numbers to the same format. So I'm going to just go ahead and write all my numbers down. So I have 67%, I have 0.64, I have 3/5, and I have 69%. Personally, I like to always use decimals, especially when there's percents and fractions involved. So I'm going to go ahead and make it decimals. Remember, when converting percent to a decimal, you just divide by 100. So if I take it, you can use a calculator if you want. Just do 67 divided by 100 and you get 0.67. Decimals are really easy. Or remember from the trick from last year, move the decimal place over twice. Okay, So either divide by 100 with the number that you have there or move the decimal over. I like to just divide by 100 and know that that is 0.67. I already have this second one, 0.64 in decimal, so I don't need to do that. The 3.5 or 3/5, sorry, I need to divide 3/5. You can do it in a calculator, or you can divide by 3 and then 5 here, and you would get 5 can't go into 3, and then but 5 can go into 30, and that would go 6 times, so it would be 0.6. Okay, so then you get 30 here. Okay, so I have 0.6 as my decimal, and then this decimal would be 0.69. Remember, to convert, you divide by 100. So I just took the 69, divided by 100, and I get 0.69. So I have 0.64 and 0.67. Now I have to order. If it helps you, put it on a number line, okay? So looking at a number line, you don't have to do a number line if you don't want to, but here is 0, here is 1. This is a little bit more than 0.5, but I see 0.6, right? I'm going to actually put a 0 on there. So I'm looking at, you can kind of think of it as 67, 64, 60, and 69, okay? So I see 0.6. I'm going to put 0.6 here. And then what comes next? Well, I'm looking at my hundreds place. I have a 9, a 4, and a 7. Well, it'd be 0.64. And then the next one would be 9 or 7. Well, 7. 7's less than 9, so 0.67. And then you have 0.69. So that would be the order. So remember, it wants least to greatest, so we're going to go from left to right. So my order would be 0.6. Then it would be 0.64. Then it would be 0.67. 0.69. And then the last thing is you need to make it back into the original form that they gave you. So they gave you 67%, 0.65, 3/5, and 69%. So I have to put those back. So I, with the 0.6, that was 3/5. So I'm going to change this to 3/5. The 64 hundredths was just 64 hundredths, so I'm going to keep it 64 hundredths. And then the next one is 67 hundredths, so that would be 67%. And then the last one is 69 hundredths, which is 69%. And that would be your final solution with the original numbers that they gave us. All right, that's the end of ordering and comparing numbers.